In a world dominated by the Alexander Volkanovskis and the Max Holloways of the sport, one man that has quietly built his reputation as one of the most dangerous fighters in the UFC featherweight division is Josh Emmett. A wrestler with thunderous knockout power in his hands, Emmett is exceptionally well-rounded and has all the skills in the world to wear the gold-studded UFC belt around his waist. A couple of brutal injuries and a few heartbreaking losses, however, have so far stopped Emmett from achieving his ultimate goal. But if there's one thing we know about Emmett, it's that he won't ever give up. This is the incredible, inspiring story of the most underrated featherweight in the world. Born in Phoenix, Arizona, on March 4, 1985, Emmett had a passion for combat sports at an early age. After a successful wrestling career in high school and college, Emmett joined Urijah Faber's Team Alpha Male to pursue combat sports, with mixed martial arts being his top priority. Emmett's exceptional fighting ability and IQ were evident thanks to his excellent performances in sparring sessions, and that ultimately led to his mixed martial arts debut in 2011, when he beat Emilio Gonzalez by decision at Capital Fighting Championships. The American won all of his first 9 fights outside of the UFC, most notably winning the West Coast Fighting Championship featherweight title. At 9-0 as a professional MMA fighter, Emmett signed with the UFC, making a decent start to his career by winning his first 2 fights against John Tuck by split decision and Scott Holtzman by unanimous decision. His debut against Tuck in particular was noteworthy because he was pushed to the limit. The top UFC featherweight contender suffered a compound dislocation to his left ring finger in the 3rd round of the fight, and Tuck took full advantage of it by launching an avalanche of strikes to put him away. Emmett's grit prevailed, and he made a successful start to his UFC career. After 2 successive wins, Emmett suffered his first career loss in a closely contested split decision against Desmond Green, before bouncing back against Felipe Arantes, and most notably against Ricardo Lamas, who was the number 4 ranked featherweight contender in the world at that time. The 2 locked horns at a UFC fight night in 2017, and after 4 minutes of back-and-forth action, Emmett knocked his opponent out cold with a crushing left hook. In his very next fight, Emmett suffered a brutal and somewhat controversial knockout loss at the hands of Jeremy Stephens. After an entertaining first round, Stephens dropped Emmett with a big left hook before unleashing a series of vicious blows to his head, including an illegal knee, an elbow, and hard punches. Emmett suffered a number of brutal injuries that kept him out of action for nearly 13 months. His left eye socket floor was completely shattered. The left part of his orbital bone was crushed, and he had a compressed nerve near the muscle that controls his left eye's movement. According to the doctor who treated Emmett, it could very well have been a career-ending injury. Even after surgery, life wasn't easy for the UFC featherweight as he struggled to complete day-to-day tasks due to concussions. It was a long road to recovery for Emmett, but his grit and lion-hearted persona paved the way for a comeback that deserves more recognition than it gets. Emmett made his return to the UFC octagon against Michael Johnson in 2019. The first couple of rounds were tough for the Fighting Falmer as he struggled to keep up with Johnson's speed, accuracy, and movement. With less than 1 minute left on the clock, Emmett was in need of a finish, and he delivered, launching a massive overhand right that caught Johnson, who fell to the canvas in a heap. In his next fight, Emmett faced another tough test in Mirsad Bektic in July 2019. The fight ended in the first round, with the two spending the first half feeling each other out and throwing a strike here and there. From the 3rd minute onwards, the fight picked up momentum as both men exchanged fire with fire. Emmett's strikes were hotter in comparison, and Bektic folded after getting hit with a step-in jab with less than a minute left in the first round. Emmett followed with hammer fists on the mat until the referee called the fight. It was Emmett's first UFC bonus. After beating Bektic, Emmett scored 3 more wins against Shane Burgos, Dan Ige, and Calvin Kattar. While his wins against Burgos and Ige were fairly easy, Emmett was pushed to the limit by Kattar in June 2022. The fight was razor close as both men landed significant punishment on one another for 5 straight rounds, but it was Emmett who was declared the winner by split decision. With 6 straight wins after making his comeback, Emmett earned an interim title fight against Yair Rodriguez at UFC 284, but was blown away by the Mexican, who submitted him to win the belt. Losing a UFC belt never feels good, but Emmett has this habit of bouncing back after setbacks, and he will get his opportunity to make one final run at the featherweight title when he faces Ilia Topuria in a high-stakes contender fight at UFC Fight Night in June. The challenge is as tough as any, but Emmett has never had an easy fight in his career. He's been facing the toughest guys in the division since forever, and he'll do whatever it takes to take the title home. At 38 years old, however, he's in a race against time. Will Josh Emmett make his dream of becoming a UFC champion come true? Give us your thoughts in the comment section. If you liked our video, please show us some love by subscribing and smashing the notifications button so we can keep giving you stories like the one you just watched.